Live from our studios in Kingstown, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines. It's your favorite Thursday night show, Up Late with Sehon Marshall. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome the host of tonight's show, Sehon Marshall.
Good evening and Happy New Year. Welcome to 2026. I am thrilled to be sharing tonight's first program, the first program of the year with you, Uplate with Sehon Marshall. I'm your host, Sehon Marshall. I am looking forward to an exciting 2026. Now, it is usual for us to say in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, God's willing. And so, with health and strength, I intend to be here with you every Thursday night, bringing you this program. I want to thank you so much for joining. Whether you're here in St. Vincent and Grenadines, in the Eastern Caribbean, you're in North America, you're in Europe, you're in Asia, the Middle East, wherever you are, thank you so much for joining. It's always a pleasure to have you staying up late with me on this program. As usual, I'm going to ask you to share the program. Now, I mentioned a few weeks ago, or a few programs ago, that I'm seeking to migrate the program to YouTube exclusively. And so you wouldn't get a Facebook message of the program going live because I'm no longer streaming live on Facebook. What I endeavor to do every week is put the link of the program on the Facebook page and share it so that if individuals go there, they can access the link on Facebook. Now, I always give what, in my opinion, is the advantage of YouTube, and that is YouTube is an app on your smart TV, and many of you have smart TVs. Therefore, it's easy for you and more convenient, in my view, to sit in your living room, put your television on, access the YouTube app, search Upload with Sion Marshall, and look at the program live on your television. That way, your phone isn't tied up, and so you can access your messages and your calls without interruption. Hence, I continue to ask that you go to YouTube. If you have an account, do subscribe. If not, that's fine. You do not need an account to look at the program. Now, say, I am going to take a few minutes to put the links on the Facebook page, and I invite you to do the same. You can put the link, share the link on your WhatsApp status or where have you, so that other people can access tonight's program. I promise you, we have an exciting program ahead. So just give me a few minutes so I can do this. Um, where we know, I'm going to share it on Facebook. Where's the Facebook? No, not that mostly. All right, let's try this. Um, let's try. Okay, so here it is. I'm finding the program. It's there. It's live. Uh-huh. Turning it down. Yes. And I see we have some videos on already. So I'm copying the link. I'm going to my Upload with Sian Marshall page, and I'm creating a post. Right. No, that's not what I want. This guy. All right, let's try it again. I'm still trying to share. Don't worry. Let's go there. This one is taking longer than usual. Sorry. Okay, let's do that now. No, don't like that. Alrighty, there you go. So I've posted it on my Facebook page. So it's there on my page. Hopefully, people get to see it. And then me share it on. There you go. So it's finally, I go, all right. Good. All right. So I've wasted enough of your time already. Yeah? Please forgive me. Yes. All right. Good. Tonight, I have three segments prepared for you. We may or may not get through all three, but let's give it a shot. 2 days ago, or a few days ago, a fire engulfed the one of the buildings at the Kitten's Government School. Now, there are many things that I want to discuss about this. Many, many things. But I'll start by saying this: governance requires preparation. People must be prepared to govern. We can go back to 2001, the fact that when the Unity Labour Party took office back in 2001, they were able to hit the ground running because they were prepared to govern. I believe one of the things that assisted in that preparation is the fact that you had someone like Vincent Beach, who had been in government, understood what governance was, understood the processes involved in governing. And you also had Ralph Gonzalez, who taught government as a university lecturer. So at least he had a theoretical understanding of what government required, but he had spent also years in the opposition from 1994 to 2001. So you saw quite a quick transition into governance. I'm afraid that that is not what is happening at this time. Grenville Williams, during the election campaign, told a story, true story, about his experience with Nigel Stevenson after the 2013 floods. Nigel Stevenson had been elected as Member of Parliament for South Leeward in 2010. And in the 2013 floods, as part of the neighborhood group, Grenville had mobilized a number of individuals and they were doing part of the cleanup and so forth after the floods. He recounted that at some point, the MP for South Leeward came through with his, as we see in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, too long empty hand. And they asked, what assistance can you offer? His response, according to Grenville Williams, was, there's not much I could do. I'm not in government. Now, there was Grenville in 2013, not in government. He had a number of others with him, not in government, but they were able to mobilize and be on the ground doing part of the cleaning. But the individual elected by South Leeward as part of the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, remember, just to be clear, there are three branches of government. And Nigel Stevenson, since 2010, has been part of the legislative branch of government. He wasn't part of the executive branch, but he was part of the legislative branch. However, his response, when asked, "What can you contribute? What can you do for us?" was, "I'm not in government." When Kittel School burned, Nigel Stevens, the honorable member for South Leeward, did something that is painful to recount as it was painful to watch. He went live. He took his cell phone and he started a live video. Now, to me, that is akin to school children seeing a fight and pulling out their phone, going live. The primary reason for that is to get some likes, some clicks. So there's a fight, the people busting people's head, pelting buttons, and in many instances, you can hear the laughter and some of the comments when people go live. I always, it always worries me. It always bothers me when individuals do that. I remember once there was an accident when I was in graduates, and a lady came on the scene of the accident and immediately went live. And you can hear her in her own live asking the question, has anyone called the police? And Nigel Simpson can be heard in the live commenting, I hope someone from the fire department sees this. Let me repeat. He picks up his phone, and his first response seems not to be, let me call the fire department, 911, 999. His first instinct seems not to be, let me call my colleague Sinclair Lickup, Minister of National Security, and have him call the fire department. His first response is, let me go live. And hopefully, when I go live, maybe, just maybe, somebody might see it. I got the impression watching that, and it was painful to watch, that Nigel Stevenson seems not to have recognized the reality, seems not to have set in that you are the executive, you are the authority. The power now rests in your hands. And even then, as the fire continued to blaze, he could be heard saying, some of my colleagues seem to be trying to get in touch with me, and that is what is disturbing the live. But I'll do this live and I'll get to them afterwards. Imagine if Dr. Gonzalez had gone to Union Island after peril with a camera going live. Imagine. We've had disasters after disasters, some natural, some man made. And we've experienced the response of the previous administration, whether it's Thomas, 2013 flood, Beryl, Erica, Elsa, volcano, COVID. We've seen how the government responded to disasters. And I compare that to what occurred a few days ago, where the response of a minister of government, a member of parliament, stays a few feet below a fire that engulfs a school where the children of his constituents would attend. And he's no concern about going live and giving a ball by ball commentary of the roof caving in as opposed to making a call to the fire department, as opposed to making calls to his colleagues so that they can spring into action. Now, I don't know what happened after the live ended, whether he went there later at night or in the morning, I'm not sure. But the first response caught my attention. I think it was irresponsible. I believe it was childish, And I hope that the member of for South Leeward never repeats this again. My brother, you are in government. You are the executive. You have the responsibility placed in your hands by voters of this country to spring to action. And in the case of a disaster, it's not to go live on Facebook, but rather to ensure that the organs of the state are mobilized into action. Did it occur to him that children play in the schoolyard and there might have been children in the schoolyard? I am not suggesting at all that the honorable member should have run to the schoolyard, but there's a difference between making a call to the fire department with the phone in your hand and going live so that people could log on and click like and click love and they get plenty reaction from a Facebook post. Now, what occurred after drew even more interest. Now, the leader of the opposition, Ralph Gonsalves, went to the site the morning after. He thought that, listen, this is a few days before school, a fire burned in the building, there's concern. So he went there. Now, I have some opinions as to the interaction that occurred there between the former prime minister and individuals within officials within government, public servants with whom he had worked for many, many years. So I have my own opinion about the interaction there, which I wouldn't share here. But what I find to be disturbing is the way some individuals who voted the NDP reacted to the fact that Dr. Gonzalez went to the site of the disaster. I'm not sure if it's because while their party was in opposition, their leader then and other members didn't spring to action with such urgency. I'm not sure. But what I'm sure of is that they saw nothing wrong with any member of the NDP while in opposition commenting on any disaster. I got to talk about what was happening in Ireland many, many times. As a matter of fact, I remember Dr. Friday calling a press conference to tell you he will raise money. So Dr. Gonzalez, the former prime minister and leader of the opposition, went to assess, see what is happening. As of now, he's no longer part of the executive, so he cannot coordinate the response. But surely he's entitled to have an opinion. He's been there before. He has managed many of these before. How many of you remember that Stony Ground School had a fire just before school opened, and it was ready for school to open under this later government? So making preparations temporarily for students in schools. Remember what happened with Sandy Bay? Destroyed. Accommodations were made for Sandy Bay Secondary. This is something that the Ralph led government has done time and again with excellent results. And so, of course, he has ideas. Of course, he knows what to do. The NDP has never dealt with it. I'll digress to say this. I digress. The biggest challenge that has to be addressed immediately is to curb the enthusiasm and expectations of some of those who supported him, especially those who supported from afar using social media, who believe that their posts on social media, their comments and their videos on social media were what won the elections. These people were allowed to foster certain expectations. And now that the party is in government, they believe that they are part of decision making machinery and that they can make things happen. And Dr. Friday, you have to address that. You have to address the situation that exists where individuals who are nothing more than commentators on social media. And I'm not going to get into how much weight and influence and significance they have. That's for them to determine and for you to agree on. But those individuals who are already demanding firings on Facebook and telling you who should be hired on Facebook, you have to manage that. And you have to manage that quickly because they can derail whatever goodwill you already have. I saw and I've been seeing people demanding firings and individuals are upset that Dr. Gonsalves is sharing his opinion. And people got rid of Ralph. But in the same breath, they're saying that ULP supporters voted against ULP for the NDP. Do you think that's what they voted for? For you to be insulting Dr. Gonsalves? Do you think do you think that's why they switched? So that you can now insult Dr. Gonsalves? Do you think they switched so that you could fire them? I saw a headline that said that the housing program has been stopped, affecting over 150 workers. Have you thought of how many of those persons voted for you? I've seen that there is uncertainty with the Yes program and the SET program. Thousands of young people, the same young people you told, vote for me and let's win together. But now they are uncertain about their jobs. The same people. Do you know how many of them voted for you? Do you know how many of them switched allegiance and thought, I like the messaging of the NDP. Together we win. So let me try it. But they are red, the supporters. Or yellow, because there was the code, and they want blood. Be careful. Dr. Friday, manage those expectations. Manage your people. Well, I'm not even sure how much control you have over them. They were all out of fire. I've seen that the Governor General debates office in January. I've seen a report in one of the blogs that Glen Beach has been released. I'm sure, I'm pretty sure Glen was on the way to sure that it was going to be kept. But remember, it's cyclical. And I always go back to the fact that when you talk about 2001, number of individuals, Fitz Bramble and Bernardo Wiley and Frank Clark, who were all kept on for years after the new government took over. Manage the expectations. You are now here to govern, and we expect you to govern. And those, I'm under no illusion. I'm going to tell you that straight up. I am under no illusion. But there are those who do, who are. There are those who genuinely believed your message. and voted for you, whether first time voters, voters who switched, they believed your message. And what you told them, then you're singing a different song, you know. But I go back to the situation of the Kittens Government School. I heard the Minister of Education talk about having spoken to the senior officials, senior teachers, and the idea is to keep the students close. The suggestion from Dr. Stas was you can use the LRC and Braxton to put some timber buildings within a couple of weeks, right in the yard to host the children. That is something that the ULP has done. From putting timber buildings in grammar school yard and other places that were considered watering down the education system to building two timber structures or more than two, but out at the time to house two secondary schools. This is something that we've seen it all. So those are the suggestions. Instead, I'm reading a report that the students will be held in Camden Park. Well, maybe the government also intends to provide buses for those students to go to Camden Park because many of these students have walked to school from in Kittel's area, but now we send them to Camden Park. Maybe the new government is sorting the logistics out, but we had Philip saying, the Honorable Philip Jackson saying that the idea was to keep the students close in Kittels, but then the latest report that I got was, according to the Prime Minister, Dr. Godwin Friday, they'd be put in Camden Park, in the center. I guess we'll see what happens. And we'll see how long. I guess, look, you would not be able to compare, you know. You would not be able to compare because we will see how long they stay in that building. Look, life is such a beautiful thing because those who criticize the government, and I know the biggest cheerleaders of those who criticize the former government, and I know the biggest cheerleaders of the current government, who talked about how long high school has been at the tarmac and how long grammar school spent at the tarmac. Let's see if they will keep that same energy and question the length of time the students stay in Cabinet Park. I'm putting them out early. I put it out there all because I want and I expect the cheerleaders to keep cheering. And apparently, all of a sudden, things take time. All of a sudden, things take time. But school starts on Monday. The students of the Kittens Government School wouldn't be on the ground at the Kittens Government School. They'd be in Cabinet Park. Based on the report I saw, I believe it's in One News, based on comments from the Prime Minister. Well, like I said, Vincent would now be able, and that's the beautiful thing about governance. There are many individuals, many young people under 30 who have no idea of how the previous ND dealt with these things. Now we will have a first-hand view. You'll be able to compare what this government is doing in Kittel with what the previous government did with high school, Thomas Grammar School, Sandy Bay, and many other schools across the country that had disruptions. You'll be able to compare and you'll be able to draw your own conclusion. about who was more prepared, whose response was better, whose response resulted in less, the smallest loss of instructional time. You'll be able to do that. So we wait to see how that unfolds. But I end where I started. It's not about likes, Mr. Minister. It's not about likes. You have a responsibility, and jumping on your phone and going live is an opposition type thing. And I'm pretty sure that this current opposition would not be acting in that manner, going live, but instead jump into action. You could learn from them. So the next step is a disaster. When you pick up your phone, don't think about going live. Think about making a call. Think about making a few calls to address the situation. Because, bro, it's not about clicks and likes anymore. It's about governing. It's about governing in a responsible manner, governing in an efficient manner, governing the way people expect you to govern. And in the case of during disasters, govern in a manner that alleviates any anxiety and addressing any discomfort that may have been caused by the disaster. I hope you learn this. Now, you would have some cheerleaders, and I'm sure there are people who ain't happy with me commentary on that, and that's fine. You are free to have your opinion. Absolutely to have your opinion. But that's mine. That's mine. Now, the other thing I want to talk to you about tonight, yes, the other thing I want to talk to you tonight has to do with, well, I won't say this, individuals who did not return. There was a directive, and people chose not to follow the directive, and they were deemed to abandon their job. Initially, the response of the government was, yeah, we apply. Now, keep in mind, let us be rational about this thing. Keep in mind that people had not returned to work, thus creating vacancies in the system. And the government had a responsibility to fill those vacancies. People had classes to teach. People children in school. You need to hire teachers. If it's principal, to hire principal. If it's a deputy, you need to hire deputy. Senior teacher, what have you. Public servants, same thing. People needed to be hired. So the government hired. To come back to work, they say reapply. Okay. That position was subsequently soft to one that said, indicate to the Service Commission your willingness to come back to work. I said on a previous program that, in my view, this was procedural. You had to indicate, well, the government was requiring that you indicate, you make indication, so that a process can start based on your indication. I mean, let's be real. You've not been in the classroom for a year and a half. You taught junior three at a particular school. The expectation couldn't have been that your junior three class was being taught. The expectation could not have been that one teacher was teaching their class plus yours. So obviously, someone had to be hired. So procedurally, indicate your willingness to come back to work. Start that process. And I am reliably informed, and many teachers can attest to it, that quite a few teachers follow that protocol. They indicated, and the process was put in place for them to be back on their jobs, whether it's in teaching, police, nursing, wherever. That was the process. Others decided that they were not going to indicate. And they were driven by the stance of the opposition that spoke to reinstatement with full benefits. Now, the government of previously, liberal conservatives, had said your benefits, you would lose any benefits whatsoever. Indicate you go back to work, you wouldn't lose any benefits. And he even went further to show examples where workers within the system, whether it's teachers or what have you, had retired, and his government had taken bills to parliament to ensure that those workers got their benefits. But teachers decided that they were not, that the procedural situation, as suggested by the government, or as required by the government, was, I guess, unreasonable. It, according to them, was unreasonable for you to expect me to indicate my intention return to work. So they did. I believe, and I've said this publicly, that individuals voted against the government because they felt aggrieved by that position. And they voted for the NDP because they believed that under an NDP administration, there would not be that procedural requirement. So they voted against the government, they voted for the NDP. The NDP said, again, I respect your choice. That's the beauty of our democracy. But let's get to the crux of the matter. No, it's time to go back to work. And at, a, at an event, the Minister of Education, Philip Jackson, said, listen, teachers can go back to work with confidence. Workers can go back to work with confidence. Just show up. Said that publicly. But in a memo, it says re-engagement, not reinstatement, as was touted for the past how many years since COVID. Re-engagement. And it was said that it was re-engagement in accordance with existing laws, regulations, and policy statements. So guess what? People showed up to work. People showed up to work. You want to know something? They still ain't working. They are still not working. Let me tell you what's going on. People showing up to work and going back home. Because guess what? That's how the government system works. There has to be a process of documentation. Positions have to be applied for to the Ministry of Finance and released. I saw a story of Anne-Marie Ballantyne smiling in the newspaper that she had returned to work. But the question I want to ask of Anne is, Mrs. Ballantyne, did you indicate your interest to return to work before the elections? I'll ask again. Because based on what you saw in the newspaper or on the blog, you may think that it was after the 27th of November that Anne-Marie Ballantyne decided to show up to work just like that. That's rational to think, right? But I'm asking, Mrs. Valentine, is that the case that you just showed up to work under the new administration, or did you indicate your desire to return to work before the elections of November 27th, therefore starting the process for you to return to work? It's a question. I know what the answer is, only you. Because what I do know is that the others ain't start to work yet. There might be one or two of them who they in a building some way and working and they ain't get paid yet. They have not been paid because there's nothing. There's nothing. And the truth is, a bunch of them are too ashamed to admit it because they're now saying, but lad, me could have done that back to work. And the sharing section of the media ain't going to happen because they touted this whole reinstatement thing for years. So the sharing media section ain't touching it at all. And those impacted who showed up to work since December, too ashamed to tell you, actually start working. I'm actually still not on the job. So what we have is a situation where the plight of individuals was encouraged for political purposes. And now, having caused the suffering of those teachers, nurses, police, public servants for years for political purposes, they are still unable to address it because it could come back to it already. They could have already gone back to work, but you decided that politics was more important than policy. In the same way you did for the referendum. You second the motion, you go in parliament and say it's a better constitution, but I'm a party man. So I am acting in the interest of my party. You can't expect me to give your party a pass of 2 months, 3 months, when you have encouraged teachers, when you've encouraged public servants, when you have encouraged policemen, and nurses to stay home for years unnecessarily, depriving themselves of income, causing all sorts of hardship. And now it's your turn to just ship them back, catapult them back into their positions. And after a month and a half, no work, no salary. Why? Because there needs to be a process and a procedure, one that you encourage them not to engage in. You promise them don't the bubble was just pouring out some water. That is the situation. And you want to pass. You want me to go easy on you. You want me to go easy on you. Oh, you just come in. Wait. So how much longer? How much longer should teachers? How much longer should policemen? How much longer should nurses? How much longer should public servants who could have been working 2 years ago simply by indicating their willingness to go back to work, like others have done, how much longer should they wait while you figure stuff out? It's not stuff I didn't want to say. How much longer? How much longer you want? months, 3 months, because you're concerned about the suffering. You're concerned about the suffering. A situation that could have ended years ago, like others have, but you encourage them not to. By another month, 2 months. How much longer? Mr. Bouchap, so what going on? My partner goes bank man. What is he with the teachers? Well, Brenton Smith, he really bothering right now because he's been tipped for commissioner. So they really matter, about the police welfare. But what's going on? You see, it's about process and procedure. Indicate your interest. I mean, what did they expect? Did the junior three teacher who had not been in the class for 2 years expect to show up that Monday and go back to junior three? Did the principal who had been out of the classroom for a year and a half expect to show up at the school and go straight back to the principal's office? What did you think what was going to happen? Seriously. No, no, seriously. Intelligent teachers, tell me, where I even think what's going to happen when you just shut in school in the morning? That's somebody to look. Go on in the class, go on in the class, come sign your results form and go on back in the class. What was the expectation? Did you think it through? Public servant. What's the expectation? Oh, look at this over there. Go back, go sit by your desk. Because the year and a half you were there, nobody was at your desk. So a bunch of public servants are at home, having returned to work, have had to return home and wait while positions are being requested. I guess wait till budget, positions created. I don't know. I don't know. Teachers wait for the government to create some teacher two positions, teacher three positions, teacher four positions to absorb the system. And even then, you are going to have to follow a process of documentation. This is not this is not the prime minister's law practice or the Andrew Wine. Well, actually, that closed out that time, but that's another story. This is not whoever the key place name that the Honorable Minister of National Security owns, where you could just take that's political. That's all right. It's the public service. It's the teaching service. You realize that in the same way the public service union took the government to court on the appointment of the clerk of the house and so on, that if proper documentation isn't followed for teachers who have been re-engaged, I'm using the word in the memo, that they can suffer the same fate where people can challenge. Imagine a principal who was duly appointed, properly appointed by the Public Service Commission. Let's just say for argument's sake, principal come back to, and for argument's sake, the position of the new government is that we push him out, we push her out. Well, remember, Um, the individual in the NDP was that many of the female head teachers had actually engaged in inappropriate acts. So maybe that's what they say. You, female principal, head teacher, you ain't got to update properly. You had to, according to the gentleman, and I call him gentleman, I don't know why. According to the individual, you give a panky to get the panky. So you got, we're going to replace you with the principal or the head teacher who was there before. Because according to the hard work principals, PSs, and so on, they qualified. They had to give a panky to get panky. As the end as exposed on that platform. So it would be no surprise if the response of the new government in re-engaging teachers is that they get rid of female teachers who they believe gave up hand to get panky and put back people who had been deemed to have abandoned their jobs. But that's the chaos that we have right now. Minister going live in the midst of that disaster. People showing up to work and having to go back home, not being not sure whether they've been reinstated or re-engaged. Chaos. And like I said, many of them too embarrassed, too embarrassed, because you stayed home and you could have gone back to work. You voted against the government and voted for a fight free, and now you're just too embarrassed. So you could sit down there and continue to blame the ULP's policy, the regulation, that, like regulations all across the globe, Canada, US, wherever, required individuals to be vaccinated to show up to their jobs. You could continue to blame them and ignoring the fact that you've had multiple opportunities to return to work. You've had the assurance by the previous government that your benefits would not be impacted. And you could even ignore the fact that the party that promised you that you could just show up to work and get back to work has so far failed the promise because you showed up to work and had to go back home and you still aren't working. You can ignore all that and hold on to the fact that you're required to take a vaccine in the midst of a pandemic to ensure the health and safety of all. Listen, the chair of the section in India would chair this group for another 2 months, another three. But at some point in time, they're going to have to they're going to have to start to govern. And the cracks that are already quite obvious, the fissures cracks, and they go break. Now I'm commenting because I want them to do better. And let me say this: it doesn't matter how much you hate, because I realize the challenge right now is that you've hated Dr. Gonzalez and Labour for so long. No, You have no you have no receptacle for your hate. See, in many instances, they turn against each other. I'm reminded of the situation in the US. Almost a year after President Donald Trump has been sworn as president, he's still talking about Biden. Y'all have been in office now since November. Y'all still talking about themselves. Well, he's going to be here now. He's going to be here because he's leader of the opposition. He has a seat, and he's going to be, I believe, with all my heart, an effective leader of the opposition. So y'all got to deal with it. Focus on governing and not on hating. You hear me? Because no amount of hate, no amount of anger is going to undo the amazing work that Labour did over the last 25 years. Focus on building on that. You hear me? Focus on building on that. You also take the advice and later tell you how to build the capabilities in the yard for the school children. And with that, let me say, from all of us here at Upbeat with Sehon Marshall, again, let me wish all a prosperous, productive, health-filled 2026. I look forward to engaging with you even more. I thank you for all of your support in the year gone, and I anticipate your support going forward. Thank you for supporting us, and I assure you that we'll be here to offer and provide engaging discussions, proper content, educational content for 2026 class play. Good night.